jump on social media, everyone's like unique. My experience to yours is going to be entirely different. What I've got to offer versus what you've got to offer. Find your thing that you're passionate about, whatever you want to do, and just get it out there. Go for it. You kind of have to be obsessed, and it's all got to encompass everything you do. Perseverance, like what it takes to get a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Just keep bashing that head.
We got Danny Ritz, who I know from jiu-jitsu, and he's got a bunch of interesting things going on in his life. I'm quite excited to talk to him today and bring his story to you. The reason we bring him today is we try to bring guests who are committed to excellence and who are demonstrating excellence in their pursuits and in their life. And Danny's definitely one of those guys. So I'm kind of interested to hear a little bit about your early guitar pursuits. I know you're doing some pretty amazing stuff out there in guitar world, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I was speaking to Marley, my daughter, this morning, and I said, is there anything that you think I should ask Daniel? And she said, ask him when he realized that he wanted to make a career out of guitar, and how did he work that out? So from a young person, that was what she was interested in hearing.
Question. Yeah. So that happened, I think I was around age 11 or 12. So before that, I just used to listen to whatever music, like what any kid listens to, like didn't really have a preference. Like, oh yeah, my friend listens to this, so that's cool. And then it was, I can't remember what year, maybe 2010, 2011. My dad bought this album. It was a band, Bullet for My Valentine. And I remember he bought it specifically on Valentine's Day. And then I remember we was at the JB Hi-Fi in Warrawong. I remember exactly where we were parked, and we're walking to the car, he plays it, and I'm like, oh, what's this? Valentine? Is this like love music on Valentine's Day? I was like giving him heat about it. And then he goes, oh, it's some new band I found. I heard a song, and he played the third song on that album because that was the one he heard, like probably on a music channel. And as soon as it started, like whole body just like tingled and like goosebumps. I'm like, what is this? And the song was Hearts Burst Into Fire. It's like probably the song that set me off. And then since then, I remember we even went to my grandparents' house, and I was looking at the insides of the CD, and they all have like wallet chains, black clothes, Converse on them. I'm like, whoa, they're so cool. Like, who are these people? So that's like what sort of got me into the hard rock, heavy metal sort of world.
Were you interested in music before that, or was that just like the moment?
That was the moment that sort of like just ticked in my head. Like I said before, I was just listening to whatever music like I know kids listen to, like Eminem or
yeah.
I can't really. It wasn't like a music head, but then after hearing that, I'm like, all right, what is this sound? This is insane. Like I need to listen to more of this. And then for I think maybe a year or two, I just was like went down like listening to all these heavy bands and stuff. And then 13 or 12th birthday, I'm like, can I get a guitar for my birthday? And then started off with bass first, got that for my 11th birthday maybe. And then about a year on that, I realized it wasn't really cool or fun. And then I needed an amp, and then I got an amp with like a guitar, like a cheap crappy guitar sitting right behind me over there, my first one. And then I just gravitated towards that. So I started playing guitar probably around age 12 and 25 now. So how many years is that? 13 years of playing. So that's like the early days that started me off. As far as that question Marley had, when did I want to make it a career? I'm trying to remember the exact year. I'm usually pretty good with this stuff. I want to say 2017. Yeah, 2017. I remember I saw Alice Cooper in Sydney. They played with Motley Crue at the Allphones Arena, or whatever it's called now, Kudos Bank. And I messaged the drummer because I really wanted to get like a VIP experience, and they like all sold out. And then long story short, I had a teacher at my high school that knew the drummer. They were friends with each other. So I messaged him. I'm like, oh, is there any chance I could get a VIP? I missed out. And he goes, look, just message the drummer, say you're a student of mine or former student at the time. Just be really cool. And then, yeah, I messaged him. He goes, oh, yeah, we're going to like this bar after the show. And that was Frankie's Pizza. That's now long closed. Rest in peace. One of the coolest bars Sydney ever had. And like the whole night after the show, I just got to hang out with him, pick his brain and stuff. And then I remember asking him, like, do you have any advice for like a musician? At this point, I didn't really like. I was in one band at the time, but I didn't really have like the drive of like, all right, let's do a career, let's chase it. And then he goes, dude, I've been in countless bands, 50 of them you probably never heard of. Just play as much as you can. I remember him saying that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then since then, I was like, just going on the chase. Then like, all right, looking to play with this guy, trying to get in this band, trying to get in that room. So that was sort of the tipping point. Then just after that night, and yeah, just like at the time, how old was I? Maybe 18. So going to see like one of your favorite bands, hanging out with the drummer in the band, like drinking with him all night, picking his brain, and then coming down off that, I'm like, whoa. It was like a pretty another life-changing moment, I guess. Like the first time I heard like heavy metal back in the day.
Were you always drawn to the heavy stuff, Daniel?
Well, like I said before, that album that my dad got on Valentine's Day on that 2010 probably, I didn't listen to much of it. Like it was just random music like any kid listens to. Didn't really care much about music, but since that album, that was like the one where, all right, this sound, the guitars, the heaviness of it, I guess, I just went tunnel vision all onto that music. Now I've sort of spread out a bit more because so much of my life has been like, it's like I like to chill out, listen to classical music every now and then.
The Alice Cooper and Motley Crue, was that your dad's influence, or was that something that you sort of discovered yourself?
Yeah, he was pretty big on Motley Crue. Like he was an 80s kid. He grew up all through the 80s. So like Iron Maiden, Metallica, Motley Crue, all the glam stuff he liked, Bon Jovi as well, Wasp. I didn't get too big into the glam. Like I like some of the stuff like Motley Crue, like the good glam. I think I was into Alice Cooper. He liked Motley Crue. So it's like, oh, they're playing together. We got to go. It was super cool.
Your dad's been a huge part of your journey, Dan. I've spoken to him, and I know he does a lot to support you. The other thing I've noticed is coming to watch you guys play, like there's like a good family vibe. There's like elderly people there, grandparents. You guys have some awesome support. Is like, what does family mean to you in your pursuit of the career in music?
Well, yeah, I think family is everything, right? Like if you have a kid and you have the whole family surrounding him saying, no, like, what are you doing? That's insane. You're not going to do that. That's crazy. Some of them have been like that in the early days. Very much I had that. Even sometimes I still get it now. Just people just don't get it. But if you have an environment of people actually trying to uplift and like, all right, yes, if this is what you want to do, like go for it. My dad was very much like that, getting me the guitar. Like he didn't need to for my birthday. He could have been like, just listen to it. What are you going to do? Play guitar. So I think early on, he sort of always envisioned it. Other members sort of had to come on board later once stuff started to happen. And like, oh, now I understand what he's going for. So having a good environment around you, I think is good because it's going to push you to go better. And like when you start having like the off days or you're not feeling your best, they're going to uplift you to like, no, like keep pushing harder. Whereas if you had the negative environment, if you're having a bad day, it's like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough or whatever. And then you're having other people around you saying that. I think that's just going to destroy someone much quicker. Because like in any pursuit, I guess, there's always going to be obstacles that come up. If you have a good team around you that you can sort of bounce off, like when you take a big hit, you're going to bounce back harder. There's going to be more chance you getting up for that 10 count.
I was just going to fast forward a little bit into your Metallica band. And I just wanted to know what it was like to be mentioned by Lars Ulrich himself on the Howard Stern show. Like, how did you respond to that? And what was it like to have that recognition?
Yeah, that is still like, even just you saying that back to me, that's still like a pinch me moment. I forget. I'm like, oh, that happened. Yeah, that's insane. That's actually a pretty cool story, that one. When that happened, I was on another tour in Europe with my band Mason. And the bass player in that band is also the bass player in Damge Inc, also my cousin. And I remember waking up in, what city of France was it? Lyon, France. I remember, getting out of the bus because, like, you wake up usually on a tour bus like 10 a.m., 11 a.m. And you roll into the venue. First thing you look for is the Wi-Fi password and copy. Or at least I was at that time. And then he was already in there and he was like, Dan, look, Lars mentioned us. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he shows me this little clip that Clint, the lead singer of Damge Inc, posted on our page. And yeah, it was Lars talking about, oh, I think there's this Damge Inc band from Australia. how they played our new song 3 days after it came out.
And there was another Australian band, I think they're called Damage Inc. Their video, their version of Luxy Turner up on the internet video, playing it live in front of an audience. And we're all sitting there going, we've never even like really played this song after we wrote and recorded it. I mean, we've never even played it really together. And
how cool is that?
So yeah, the story with that, they just dropped a song and we were in the middle of a tour, of an Australian tour where it was like 40 years of Metallica. So what we're doing was like 2 songs off every album. And that song had just come out, I think maybe 3 days before our next show, where we had in Geelong. And then we're like, all right, guys, we need to learn this song and play it like at this weekend's show. So we all learnt it. We rehearsed it at soundcheck on the day. It went like super smooth. It was like terrifyingly tight for the first time we all played it. I think everyone was just like so nervous. We got to play this song just on no rehearsal. So we all studied it very well. And then we played it. We got my dad to film it because he actually came down for that one. And then his filming, we posted that up on our YouTube page. And yeah, that was maybe 3 or 4 months later when Lars caught wind of it and then mentioned us about it on the Howard Stern show. So yeah, just insane moment. Like, yeah, super cool. And just us, we're all crazy Metallica fiends. So it's really cool.
Yeah, that's great recognition and publicity. And like you said, like you would have performed it live before they even did.
Yeah, first time in front of an audience. I think there was another band, they just done it in like I think it wasn't in front of a crowd, but they played it. But yeah, I know we were the first ones playing it live in front of an audience. And that was like kind of the thing, like, oh, we got to do this before they do it. So yeah, pretty cool.
Have you had any other brushes with fame? I can even think of, like, you always seem to run into famous people and stuff like that. Like even when you were down in Wollongong and you run into, what's his name? Jiu-jitsu fella.
Oh, Craig Jones.
Craig Jones, yeah. It's just like, oh, we left training and you just sent me a photo out with Craig Jones.
Yeah. I remember that one. I was out for like a buddy's birthday. I rarely go out, like especially like in our town. It's if I'm out touring, I'll go out just because it's a different city, get to explore it. But it's very rare that I'll go out, and I just happen to be out. I think it was my buddy's birthday. He's like, oh, let's go out for a few drinks, whatever. And then, yeah, we were at the Illawarra, or the Volkanovski at that time, because they changed the name of it when he was champ. And I'm just there, like, hanging out, chilling. And then I look over, I'm like, I swear that's Craig Jones. And then I'm like to my buddy, I'm like, is that Craig Jones? And he goes, I don't know. And I'm like, why would he be here? And then it clicked. That was when they were preparing for the Islam fight in Perth. So it was like, I think a week before. And then I went up, I'm like, are you Craig Jones? He's like, oh, hey, man. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, I check out B-Team, the funny videos you guys always post. Their jiu-jitsu channel is super cool. And then, yeah, I'm like, is it cool if we grab a photo? And then, yeah, he was super cool. But it was just, I don't know, like I said, you don't expect it. And then it's like, oh, yeah, here you are. Like,
yeah, you probably just get used to it. Because you also got a brush with the guitarist from Alice Cooper as well.
Oh, yeah, I went to her, like, guitar clinic. That was right before 2020, once the world went crazy. They were out again, and yeah, it was super cool guitar clinic. Got my guitar signed at the end. It's cool as well. You get to like have a bit of a chat with them, and yeah, ask like questions. I'm always like the guy. I've got like whatever question I want, like, and not just a superficial question like, oh, when are you coming to Sydney again? Like, I always want to ask like a deep question. I'm like, all right, if someone's gonna pursue something, what would be the best advice? What were the obstacles you had to face? I'm always thinking of the deeper questions that they're probably not going to get asked as much. Because one, I want to know. Two, it's a cooler question for them instead of answering the same question that they probably get all the time.
Because she's got one of your questions pinned to the top of her Twitter account.
Oh, that's still there. That's a cool thing, and I think an underutilized thing nowadays. Everyone goes on about the negatives of social media, and there are negatives about it, but I see so much more positive if you use it in the right way. Like, I don't know, say someone in whatever field you're in, if like there's a mentor you're looking to like learn lessons from, you can literally DM them or send them a message like I done then. It was a Twitter, I think she was doing an ask me anything. I just answered that, and then it's the pinned comment. But you can interact with the people above you to maybe learn something or ask questions. People are cool. If you be cool and not be a weirdo. I know it's pretty hard for a majority of people in the comment section nowadays. But if you just say, I'm like, oh yeah, hey, blah, 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 I'm this. What would you think about doing this? Or if this situation happened to you, how would you react? You're most likely going to get a reaction, and it's going to be something that could change your life, whether it was something you needed to hear at that time, and then that's going to send you on your path to excellence.
So do you think young people should maybe have a bit more confidence doing that? Because I think that's a good tip. Like, that's something that I've seen you do with bravery, if you know what I mean. I think people can feel like maybe underneath people and scared to reach out. But yeah, that's why I brought it up. I thought you've done really good at reaching out for knowledge and information from people that you want to get it from.
Like, success always leaves clues, right? So if you look at people that are doing something similar that you want to do, there's going to be interviews, there's going to be podcasts like what we're doing, like on their come up. You're going to see their journey. If you've been following them, just things they say, how they act. If you emulate that, this is a very concept I always like go on about it in my head, but act as if. So what that means to me, it's like I'm going to act as if I'm already at like said destination, say whatever your goal is, right? But you're here. It's like you got to go through the whole journey still. If you act as if the person that you are in 10 years, you've achieved whatever goals you want. If you act as if that person now, it's going to feel much more familiar once you reach that destination. And going along the journey, it's like you've already accelerated all the lessons. So it's not fake it till you make it. I feel like that gets a bit dangerous. But if you act as if someone, what would a professional do? Just being on time. Like, if you set a rehearsal, say 3 o'clock rehearsal, that means I can get to rehearsal at 3 o'clock. I can't get to rehearsal at 3:01. I'm late then. That's 1 minute late. You can get any time before 3 o'clock, but 3 o'clock, that is on time. You need to start, and you can extrapolate that to anything. Like this podcast, you told me 12 p.m. I'm like, I was there 5 minutes before. So that's something I know. I always pride myself in being early, not super early. My dad's very super early. I think it's too early. I always make sure to be like 10 minutes early, because I know, what if there's traffic, if you get a flat tire? Prepare for that, and then that will permeate to everything you do.
There's a good book about that called The War of Art, about how to think professionally, how to become a professional, not the art of war. Flip the title, but just doing basic things like that to transition your thoughts into it being professional, and just those little 1%ers that all add up. But when you talk about the virus, Daniel, it sounds like you've leveraged the situation and sort of made lemonade out of lemon with your online tutorial. Can you talk about how you started that and how you how you got that process going, and what made you think of those sort of things?
Yeah, so during 2020, when everyone was like locked up and not much to do, it's like, I already practice a lot, so nothing's going to change there. So I can't just practice more. Like, well, I guess I could, but yeah, practicing wasn't going anywhere. So that was already there. But with the extra time of, not much else happening and just being locked inside, I'd always see guitar players on Instagram. This was like very early on, before the Instagram guitarist sort of became a term. And there were just people like jamming in their room, and I'm watching them, like no disrespect to them, but they weren't like any outstanding player. But at the time, they were the first ones doing it, so they had already built up their presence. And I'm like, they're endorsed by this pickup company, this guitar company. I'm like, how is this happening? This is crazy. And this was sort of when that shift was happening, where I guess companies look now for, you need to have an online presence. So during 2020, I'd always see these videos, and I'd be like, man, I could do that. So I knew I could do the playing, and I was confident in that. The only thing that they were doing was just recording it properly, so into a computer, and then syncing it up with some video audio. So that was a bit of a learning curve. Like, if you go watch my early videos, then the track would be so much louder than the guitar. That was before I knew, I can just turn up my guitar in the DAW, that's digital audio workstation, if people aren't familiar with that. So yeah, learning all them things, I think I've got it pretty dialed in now, knowing like how to set the levels of like, guitar up here, track down here. But yeah, them early days I look back and I'm like, the camera angle's bad, the lighting's terrible, it's just real grainy and it doesn't sound good. But yeah, I guess like with anything, you got to learn. So yeah, 2020 was like, I'm going to learn how to do the recording thing because I knew very basic of it. I'm still pretty basic with it now, but that's where it's like, all right, I got something to go for. I'm going to build up this social presence. So yeah, since 2020, I've been building my socials, and yeah, recently they've gone like to pretty crazy levels, I guess. So that was sort of the goal of the lockdown, because I think whenever there's a negative situation, you always try to make it into a positive.
That's a good example of that. That 2020 sort of separated the wheat from the chaff a bit, didn't it? Like,
Yeah,
the people who are prepared to innovate and think, what can I do with this situation? But that's a good example of people who get there first. They don't have to be the best; they just got there first.
yeah,
And then you saw, I can do better than that, and you took it up another level.
yeah. And then a pretty full circle moment. I think one of the people that I'd see back then, they actually like followed me now. So that was like pretty cool. Maybe I'm doing something right. So yeah, that's super cool. But yeah, back on the like, yeah, turning a negative into a positive. I think that is sort of something I take for granted, because in my brain, it's just something that automatically like I think of, right? But I think that comes from my martial arts background, especially jiu-jitsu. Because when you have 100 kilo, the massive guy on top of you, like in side control, and you're on the bottom, you're not going to sit there and like cry, oh no, why poor me? I can't get out of it. Get off me, get off me. When you're in a bad position, you're going to, how can I turn this? I got to get out of this. And then where you go even further, it's if I can reverse this and turn that into a positive, so I can use my negative position, turn it into a positive, and then counter him to get on top. So my brain is always thinking of situations like that. Yeah, like, oh, poor us, we're locked inside. What can I do? Well, I've got more time. I've wanted to always do these Instagram videos. I'm going to learn how to do home recording, do the video, learn what good lighting looks like, learn how to sync up the audio. So learning all them other little things, and especially nowadays, being a musician, you kind of have to be a Swiss Army knife. I see so many guys get upset, like, oh, I'm not a content creator, I'm a musician. I'm like, okay, yeah, so am I, but if I didn't need to be on social media, I wouldn't be on it. Like, I need to use for it. It's just too much negativity if I don't have to be on it. So I don't see the purpose if I didn't have to.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to be on it, but it's just part of the game nowadays. Companies are looking for people with followings and a presence online. They want to get their product out. So you can either sit in the corner and say, oh yeah, well 2020 happened to me, or I don't want to be a content creator, or you can make the adjustments and go head on into it, still do your music, but yeah, make time for this, because it's a multifaceted game nowadays.
Your first attempts at anything are going to be bad too. So you might as well get them out of your system.
Yeah,
Get it all out.
I definitely sucked at jiu-jitsu. I couldn't even do a shrimp or a hip escape, we call it, my first day. And I remember watching them, like, I think I watched classes for 2 weeks before I had the courage to even get on the mats and do it. And seeing Adam and the other primitive barbarians on the mats wearing these blue tracksuit things, I'm like, what is this? This is insane. Like,
just to let people know, like, coming out of that period, what you've created. I don't think I've given anybody a good intro or summary of exactly what you have created. So you're playing in 4 bands. So Panik, the band that you started, you got Mason, you got Damge Inc. that we talked about, who are playing Metallica songs and have been mentioned on the Howard Stern show. And you've also got Darker Half that you just came back touring Europe with. At the same time, I know that you're building, as Danny and you have talked about, this online following, which is growing. Within that, I know you've got a growing list of students who you're teaching your skills to, which is, I think, a fantastic part of it. And as well as that, like we're talking about, you've not that long ago got your brown belt in jiu-jitsu, which took about 10 years, right? So that's not
9 or 10 years for the brown belt. That's another pinch me crazy moment.
And you're 24 years old, right? 25 years old. So that's who we're talking to. That's probably how I should have introed the show, but
we can just splice that in
the but the reason I bring it up is not actually to intro you or to impress anyone, but just to ask you. I know you're a very ambitious guy, but how do you deal with all of that? And what are your hopes for each of those different things? Like, how do you handle all those different bits at 25 years old and keep it together?
Dealing with the bands, let's go with that one because that was the first one that came to my head and sort of the easiest one, I guess. But yeah, dealing with those 4 bands. There's also like another little band that I do on the side, but not super often. They're like the 4 main ones. But with them, especially living in Australia, it's very rare you're going to have 4 projects that are all busy at the same time. So reason of doing 4 bands, because so many people ask me, oh, how do you balance all that? How do you do this? That's crazy. How do you know so many songs? Being in Australia, it's very rare you're going to be busy all year and all 4 bands are wanting to tour at the same time. So what made sense for me, it's like, all right, there's going to be a season where this band's going to be busy. There's a season where this other band's going to be busy. So my plan is to have like the whole year booked amongst the 4 bands, right? Because being in Australia, there's not enough cities for us to just constantly play like every week. So if you have them little chunks, like, all right, I know in January I'm going to be out with this band. March will be with this band. Through the winter, I'll be out with Damage Inc. or whoever. So having it like that, I just like being busy and being involved with as many projects. So that's sort of the way how things go. It's unless you're a really big band, you can do the whole year with one band. But nowadays, it's sort of being involved with as much as you can and timing it so they don't cross into each other. Sometimes it does, and then you have to get like fill-ins. That's a very rare occurrence, but that does happen with, being involved with 4 bands. But yeah, I guess it's just me staying busy. I like doing different stuff because if I was just doing one thing, I'd feel myself getting bored. Because there's like this musician, I always see a meme about musicians. It's the music I write, the music I listen to, and the music I want to play. So, and they're all like not related. So you playing like band A that does this, but you listen to classical music or whatever. And then the stuff you write is, I know, some avant-garde noise or something. And it's always the battle. So yeah, I'm listening to one thing. I'm like, oh man, I'd always want to play in a band like that. And then you have one where it's like, oh, this is a good challenge musically and stuff. And then sometimes, all right, the hang's awesome here. You get treated well. So yeah, I just like staying busy, and that it keeps me busy being involved with the many projects. Students as well. Yes, so I'll do students like during the day, like midday to afternoon and nights. Usually is when the day starts, I guess, for students and teaching. That's just super rewarding for me, like passing on the knowledge that I've attained and just lessons I've learned. Because I had a really good teacher in my come up, Wayne Dobbs, shout out if you're watching. He taught me a lot of awesome things on guitar. So I feel like that's just a process. You learn all this stuff, and then once you get to a point, now you start teaching it. Because if you acquire all this knowledge and then you keep it like shelled up, like, well, who are you to, I think that's a negative. If you have all this stuff, it'd be a disservice if you weren't paying it forward and letting the next people know. Because I know if I rewind 10 years ago when I was messaging this person, oh, how'd you get this? How'd you do that? And they answered me, but then come 10 years later, if I'm in that position, then the next person that's asking me this question and I don't answer them, I think that's a very bad, poor reaction and just not paying it forward. So if people message me or comment, I sort of pride myself in commenting back to a lot of people, whether it's, even if it's some vitriol and they're just chatting like nonsense, I'll try to have a sly remark back. But yeah, if people have any questions, I'm more than down to answer, and yeah, just pay it forward, I guess. And then with jiu-jitsu, that, I guess, just being involved in martial arts my whole life. And then, yeah, jiu-jitsu, especially the last 9 or 10 years, it's almost like I don't even think about it, because there are days where you're not going to be motivated. That's a lot of days, and especially as the journey gets on, when your body starts hurting more, and then you've got some color on your belt, so then there's like expectations that whether you're putting on yourself or people outside in the gym thinking that you need to act a certain way. I feel it gets harder. So there's many days I don't feel like going, but I just know, all right, put my pants on and out the door we go. So that is sort of like automatic, unless I'm like have an injury and then it's like, all right, well, I can't train, and then I'm angry because I can't train.
I probably know the answer, but how do you use the jiu-jitsu to inform the other things you do?
I think the biggest lesson I've taken away from jiu-jitsu, and just it sort of permeates through every aspect of my life, is sort of what I was going on about before. Once there's a bad position, not just accepting that position and like being stuck there. Because like I said, when you have some monster on top of you that's got side control ready to rip your arm off, you can't like accept that. Like, yeah, you might tap, but that's ultimately death, like if you translate it to the real world. So the lessons I learned, it's not accepting bad positions. So let's just take, all right, living in Australia as a musician. It's probably not the most busiest country or the most like where there's the most market for it. Like obviously doing the European tours, that's where there's more market for the style of music I play. So being on the social media, that's going to be my equalizer in this great game, right? So I'm not living in LA where there's a massive culture for it. I'm not in Europe playing all the summer festivals. I don't have that fortune of living there. So I've found my reversal of the bad position is the social media game. I don't know who's watching. I've had people engage with me, people follow me that I'd never think is following me. That might not mean anything, but it shows that you can get seen by those eyes, and you don't know what opportunity is going to come. So yeah, and then I feel like that's what jiu-jitsu does as well. It like rewires your brain. So me talking about it, it feels kind of weird because it's just how my brain sort of operates, but I know it's not a common like concept many think about. And yeah, probably the stubbornness as well. I'm like, no, I don't like this situation, so I'm going to like do everything I can to change it. And then, yeah, like I said, the next level after that is changing that position for the benefit of you. So that is, I think, the biggest lesson that I use from jiu-jitsu into every other aspect as well.
Because you were similar to me. I mean, except for I was 30 when I started and you were 15 or 16, I remember. And I was a little bit into it when you started at the gym. But we both had similar journeys, I think, in our white belt that we were, we probably got smashed more than most people. How do you think that shaped you, particularly those hard times at the beginning? Yeah.
Growing up, yeah. So, yeah, with a white belt, I guess that's the belt of like just showing up, accepting your fate that you're going to get smashed. Nowadays, it's much nicer. Now that me and Adam are sort of at top of the food chain, I can guarantee we are much nicer than even just the blue belts back when I first started, like you were saying, 15, 16 at the time. I remember watching it for 2 weeks. I'm like, this is just so primitive and scary. Like, what is happening? And the blue belts at that time, like, goes white to blue belt. Me and Adam are at our brown belt. Adam's going for his black belt super soon. But just the blue belt to the next belt up, I remember getting absolutely destroyed. And this is like a full-grown man, probably 6'4", well over 100 kilos, like just Americano or Kimura trying to rip my arm off. I'm like, why am I here? Like, I'm 16 years old and getting destroyed by some grown-up man. Like, how does this make sense? But yeah, just still showing up, having that perseverance of like keep moving forward. Nowadays, I feel like it's shaped me in a sense where I don't take many things like seriously and get affected by it. Because like I said before, when you have 100-kilo person on top of you trying to rip your arm off, whatever Bob that has a cat emoji as his profile picture set on Instagram isn't going to faze you. I don't take much like very seriously and get emotionally affected by it. Because when you have something so physical as that, I feel like it does harden you in a sense, like especially for the mental. Because like I said, if I just cried, I'm like, oh no, you can't do this, I wouldn't be doing jiu-jitsu still. And much more situations would like faze me. And then once you get emotional, you can't make like great rational decisions then, especially like in business. I'm like, all right, what's the next step? We need to look at it with logic and like results, not, oh, well, I felt bad today and then I'm going to make this rash decision and then it works out for the worst. So yeah, I feel that it hardens you in a sense, mind, body, and yeah, your spirit, like building that perseverance. Like you only fail when you give up, right? And if your goal is to get, I don't know, whether a blue belt or a black belt, if you don't make it, you gave up along the way. You tapped out.
So is that's got to be your mission for your career and music, right?
Yeah, see it through. Like I've got the goal. It's crazy now with jiu-jitsu because I remember growing up seeing a purple belt. That was like, oh, what is that? That's like a mythical beast. Like they didn't even exist. Like back when we started, it was very rare to see a purple belt. Now, as stand as a brown belt, it's a bit wild, like thinking about it. But that's like anything. I think just starting out, I didn't really have many goals. Like I just wanted it self-defense. Like this looks cool, even though it's scary. And then your goals change. So that happens a lot, especially with music. Like, all right, you play this show or you do this certain, like you achieve this certain goal. And then it's like the goalposts always move. But I think if you don't have them goals, you're not going to move forward. Like if you set the ceiling, once you hit that ceiling, where's there left to go? So it's like if you set that ceiling into the stars or the stratosphere, the galaxy, I'm like, all right, there's a long way to go. And then from there, if you achieve that, you'll probably have the next, all right, now I want to get out of the Milky Way galaxy. And what's the next one?
Daniel, when you're out on tour, especially like a big one around Europe and that, obviously your shows are at nighttime.
Yep.
What do you do during the day? How do you, what does your day look like?
So I've done 4 tours in Europe now, and 2 of them have been in a van and 2 have been on a tour bus. So just going off those 2 scenarios, they're very different. So like, let's break down the van first, because that's a bit less glamorous, I guess. Like having it, just saying tour bus sounds so eloquent.
Yeah.
So when you're in a van, how the days go like that, you usually stay in hotels. That's where you'll sleep. You don't get much sleep at all. And if you're like me, a light sleeper and every other band member snores. So you're really tired. You're probably not eating too great as well. So how those ones start, we'll stay overnight in a hotel and then we drive to the next city in the morning, in the daytime, and then usually get to the venue around midday, afternoon. You like load all the gear in, wait to sound check because you'll probably be out with some other bands. So you wait for your sound check, have dinner at the venue. Usually in that bracket, I'll try to squeeze some sightseeing in. I'm very like big on that. I'm traveling on the other side of the world. That in itself is pretty crazy. I'm going there to play music and then seeing the world. That's pretty cool. So I like to get out, see whatever city we're in. If there's any attractions, I make sure to go to them because I feel like I get power from that, like just gathering the inspiration from the city, and then it feels like a better show for me personally. So that's just something I like doing, and I feel like it'd be a disservice if I didn't go out and sightsee, right? So I'll try to fit that in during the day. So that's if you're in a van, and then yeah, you'll play the show, which is awesome, and then hang around, watch everyone else, pack down off to the next hotel, and then repeat that. Tour bus, it's a little different. That because everyone sleeps on the bus and you'll drive overnight. So you wake up in a new city. It's very much more Groundhog Day-esque being on a bus because there's so many times, like I remember on the Mason tour, that was like 32 dates and like 1 day off in the middle. So it was a grind. You just wake up like, where are we again? Like what city is that? Because you wake up like 10, 11 a.m., you load straight in. So you load the trailer out straight into the venue and then your day goes like that. But yeah, it's staying on the bus and you lose track of like, it's very much out like you're a pirate at sea, and just whatever group of people you're with, they're sort of like your family. You need to get along with them. And then especially doing 30 dates like that, close quarters on a tour bus, it's not super spacious as well. It's very like having that many people, like 20 people, I think were on that bus. So it's a lot of people and you got to get along with people. Especially being out for so long, if you don't get along with the people you're out with, it's just going to make the time worse. So making sure you're a cool person. And yeah, even those days where like me, especially on the recent one, I didn't get much sleep, but making sure them days where I didn't get that sleep and I was probably a bit extra cranky, letting stuff get to me, I just make sure, chill out, be cool. It's all fine. You're on the other side of the world playing music. Everything's good.
Yeah, that'd be an important thing, just learning how to be a person who can get along with other people.
Yeah.
That'd go a long way. But how do you sleep on the bus? Like, what's the setup there? Is it like their little cabin things set up?
Yeah, so on the Europe tour buses, they're double deckers. So the bottom level will be like the lounge area and where everyone sort of hangs out, the little kitchen, fridge, whatever. And then upstairs is all like the bunks. So you'll walk upstairs and then there's like 2 bunks. So there'll be a bottom bunk and a top bunk. And it's like almost like a little coffin, not too much room. Like you got enough to like, you can't sit up in them. So you just like lie in them. I was a top bunk on that Mason tour and I had like a nice little window. So it was nice just driving, and then I'd open the window, headphones in, and just sort of zen out a little bit. But surprisingly, I sleep better on them tour buses than I do in my bed when I'm like stationary and there's no movement. I feel the rock into bed, I know, makes you feel like a baby again, and I sleep surprisingly well, like on a tour bus. It's pretty scary thinking about it. It's like, oh, you're driving well over 100 kilometers or whatever on the Autobahn.
It must be weird.
It is weird. It is weird at first, but that was one I remember on the first tour I done with Darker Half and Jeff Tate in 2022. That was like one thing I was nervous about. I'm like, what if I can't like live on a tour bus? What if it's not what I thought it was? And then within the second day, I was like changing out of track pants into jeans inside of my bunk. So I'm like, yeah, I think I got this. So
you can go as fast as you want on the Autobahn too, can't you? There's no
I think the trucks have to, the buses have to go like a certain limit, but
right.
trailers or like can't go too crazy. I've gone a bit crazy on the Autobahn on the van tour. Like, never been 180 before.
What's been your favorite country to travel and play in over there?
Paris for like sightseeing and like seeing all cool stuff. Like the Eiffel Tower was crazy. Went to the Louvre, not inside of it. Just that day we had like not even 2 hours to sightsee, so we went and done power sightseeing. So I think we hit like 3 of the big places. We saw the Arc de Triomphe, the Eiffel Tower, and the Louvre. And with crazy Paris traffic, just being there, it's like, I've heard about this place. I've seen like videos, watched movies about it, and seeing that was like really cool for me. That was a city that I just loved like seeing and being around with.
Does anyone have the best fans in particular?
I feel I'd have to say Germany, maybe because we play there the most, and that seems to be because there's just so many places you can play in Germany, and that is sort of the hub, I guess, of metal over there. So I feel like I've done Germany the most. I can't think of like favorite country. I can think of standout shows, but then if it's only like one show, I don't have much to base it off.
Because Germany has the big metal festival over there, doesn't it?
Yeah, they tend to have most of the festivals. They have Wacken, which is the biggest one, sort of like the mecca of our genre over there. Yeah, I feel like I've done the most in Germany, but I can't pick like best fans. I guess Germany, because it's sort of the hub, but
that's probably the worst question. You meant to, all the fans are good, right?
Fit to go play. I'm like, I'm going to play and then explore whatever I can in the city. That's, you know. But yeah, want to just like sightsee, even though it wasn't like enough time. And then unfortunately, in that Paris one, we had to like leave straight away after the venue because some of the venues turned into nightclubs. So they're like, you need to pack down an entire production within an hour. I'm like, that's physically impossible. There's 20 dudes. We can't like do that. And so yeah, we had to get out of Paris like pretty quickly, go to the next city. But yeah, like I said, making the most of it. We have 2 hours. Let's go see whatever we can. We don't need a sound check today.
Yeah. It's funny how the Germans love their metal, and probably a lot of it isn't even in their language. But I guess it's the feeling of it.
Yeah. A lot of them do speak English. Like it's crazy going over there. You feel kind of stupid in a sense because majority of them speak than one language.
Yeah.
And I always like make sure to try to just learn a little bit because whatever country we're in, I just getting by with the basics. I feel like I should be trying, at least, especially in France. I've noticed those people, if you don't make an effort, they're not going to help you.
Yeah.
We're trying to like get around and ask like for help or how do we get here. And then if you'd say like, if you're an Australian accent in English, like, oh, how do we get here? I can't get to the Eiffel Tower. They'll just look at you or like shun you off. But it's like,
I got screamed at for doing that. Actually screamed at in my face, like screamed at.
Yeah, you go up to them and say, "Est-ce que tu parles anglais?" And then they're like, "Oh yeah, I speak English." Then they help you, and they were cool. I think I said that right. My memory should be pretty good on that one. I used it a lot, but yeah. So knowing that, and I feel kind of indebted being there. It's like, all right, well, I got to make an effort, you know. Even if it's just a simple like thanks and hello, I feel like that's good.
Are you going back over to Europe anytime soon? Have you got things planned?
No plans as of yet. On our recent tour, we did get booked for like another festival, but that's like next year, and like festival season, so that'll be like June, July, I think, next year. So I'm sure something might come up in the meantime. But yeah, we'll be there just in probably a year. I'm hoping to get back over
And
that as well.
And you've got some special gig coming up with Damage Inc, don't you, Danny? So tell us about that.
We've got our 20th anniversary. I haven't been in the band for 20 years. I would have been 5 at the time of joining. But Clint, the lead singer, and he is Damage Inc, I guess. He's been going for 20 years, and we've done a lot of cool stuff in the recent years. And going into this 20th anniversary show, we knew we had to do something just sort of outlandish and crazy as a tribute band, and a tribute to our favorite band, Metallica. They sort of made famous the playing in the round. If you're not sure what that is, that's like if you go to an arena, you see them play in the middle. So it's not like the stage is here and then the audience is all this way. They'll have the stage in the center of the venue, and then everyone will be around them in the round. So we're going to actually be playing our very first show in the round at Melbourne Pavilion on August 17. So that's going to be really cool for us, just, being Metallica fans and then doing what they do. And, just as a musician, it's like, oh, that's crazy. We're going to play, in the center of a venue. We also just recently announced that there's a guitar giveaway, so anyone that buys a ticket is automatically entered. We're giving away a LTD Kirk Hammett V, which is, retail over $2,000. So we're pulling no punches with this show. It's going to be a big one. And, it's in Melbourne. So the mecca of music in Australia. So it just made sense to go all out for it.
And where can people get tickets for that?
So tickets, if you use the link shortener, it's bit.ly/damage20.
We'll stick a link down the bottom.
Or via Silverback Touring or Tribute Touring. They're the two companies we work with. Or if you go to our page or my page, you'll see some links there. Or you just message one of us. I'll happily send you the link as well.
So Dan, just my final question is just kind of coming back around to the beginning from Marley's question. So I'm just thinking if there's any young or older guitarists out there who maybe don't have the confidence, or who are thinking maybe they want to play guitar as a career, or maybe they just want some inspiration from you. What's your best tips if you're sitting in their shoes?
So if I had to give, sort of myself 10 years ago advice, first, jump on social media, get yourself out there, become like a computer virus so everyone sees your face. Don't be scared of it as well, because everyone's unique. My experience to yours is going to be entirely different. What I've got to offer versus what you've got to offer. No one's going to do you better than you. So look at your people that you aspire to do, but sort of find the thing that you're passionate about and really drive that, because people are going to see that. If they can see, oh wow, he really cares, no one is going to be able to emulate that or do your own stuff better than you. So don't be scared to get out there, because you have a unique experience that I feel that's what we're here to do, share your unique experience, create stuff only in your way. Because I know, let's use me playing in the Metallica tribute band. If I try to sound like Kirk Hammett, I'm not going to be Kirk Hammett. I don't have Kirk Hammett's mind, soul, his fingers. I'm going to play his stuff to the best I can, but in my own way, if that makes sense. I'm still going to pay respect to his parts, but I'm not going to try to sound like him. It would just be a disservice then. It's only just going to be a poor emulation of what he does. So what I try to do, it's I get his stuff, pay respect to it, but do it in a different way, and then that's going to push it further. It's going to give someone else a unique experience, because just listen to the original then. So find your thing that you're passionate about, whatever you want to do, and just get it out there. Go for it. Have that sort of mental switch in your head, yes, I'm a guitarist, this is what I do now. Once you start thinking like that, you're going to bring on the opportunities and welcome things to come your way. It's if you're oh yeah, I just play a guitar as a side thing on the weekend. I'm well, there's a guy living and breathing it 24/7 the other 5 days of the week, and then stuff that you want to do on the weekend. So it's all got to, you kind of have to be obsessed, and it's all got to encompass everything you do. So just if you really want to do it, it's going to be hard. There's going to be some unfavorable positions, but you just reverse it and keep moving forward. Perseverance, what it takes to get a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Just keep bashing that head and keep going.
All I can say is I'm very lucky to have you as a friend and as a training partner. I think your answers and who you are just shows, in this conversation. And you help. Actually, it's funny talking to both of you guys in different parts of my life have helped me reconnect to my creative side where I kind of lost it. And yeah, just absolute pleasure to bring you to our audience, and hopefully we can have you back and we'll talk about the next stage of your rise.
For sure. Thanks for having me on. You guys are doing great things with this podcast. I'm a fan of it as well. I've listened to episodes before this, so yeah, it was cool being on, and great questions. Marley had a good one. Let her know that was a good question.
For sure.
And yeah, hope to do it again.
All right. Legend. See ya.
Cheers.
See ya.